These webinars right before lunch are always fun, though. It's always kind of a fun note to go into lunch. And we'll wait for people to join. We'll give everybody a little bit of time because we know people are jumping from meetings to meetings. And I do see that we are live, so that will also kind of ping people who registered. So we'll give everybody a little bit of time.
Perfect.
On this balmy Thursday.
It is finally getting a little bit warmer. We're supposed to move up to the 40s next week, so that'll feel like summer.
Yeah, I had someone tell me, oh, we're going to get a heat wave next week.
It's going to feel like that.
Yeah,
We can walk outside.
It is all perspective. Yeah, absolutely. 40 degrees. Amazing. Looks like we have about 10 people, so we'll get started here shortly, giving everybody a little bit of time to jump off their last call or make their way over to the live stream. Great. We're just waiting for a few more. If you're joining us, we'll get started shortly. We know those back-to-back meetings can be tough, so give everybody a little grace. Maybe somebody needs to refill a coffee. Amazing. I think we can get started. Celia, if you want to jump in.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke, and welcome everyone to our webinar on AI. We are so excited to get started today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Celia. I am the founder and CEO of Work Friendly, the very proud founder and CEO of Work Friendly. And with that, I will let the rest of the team introduce themselves today.
Thanks, Celia. If you don't know me, my name is Meg Farwell. I'm a people consultant here at Work Friendly and have been in the people space, corporate space for about 10 years. That's across Fortune companies, tech startups, small family offices. So really seen it all. And I'm excited to kind of bring some of those learnings to our webinar here today.
Amazing. Hi, everybody. My name is Brooke Walker. I don't sit in the HR space, but I'm really happy to be here today. My background is actually in brand strategy, brand marketing. I work for a Fortune 500 company in the power tool space, but I'm really excited to be here today to talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is AI and its rapid growth within the market. And with that, I'll pass it back to Celia.
Thanks, Brooke. Thanks, Meg. I've already learned so much from both Brooke and Meg on AI, so really excited for you all to do the same today. For those of you who are not familiar with Work Friendly, I'd like to just share a little bit more about us with these first couple slides here. So Work Friendly is a female-founded and people-first consulting group based in Chicago. We work with clients all around the world at this point, We focus on working with companies that share the belief that people are the most important piece of their business. That means that we work with companies of all shapes and sizes. We truly are industry agnostic. And our team is comprised of executive level generalists who are able to truly flex across the entire employee lifecycle with the support we provide. So here you can see an overview of some of the services that we offer, starting with attraction, going all the way through to exit. We operate in a couple of different ways, one of which is as that true fractional head of or executive level resource. We also offer services in a project capacity, as well as provide support in times of parental leave or otherwise. We are all at that executive level, executive HR generalist level and talent acquisition specialist level. So we are able to flex and help our clients with really whatever it is they need whenever they do need it. A highlight here as well is we also specialize in HR technology, which does lend itself to today's focus on AI. So whether that means that you are looking to implement a new HR technology, or perhaps you need some help with data migration or otherwise, we are definitely the people to call. Awesome. So today's focus, AI. HR has actually been one of the slower industry adopters when it comes to AI. However, that's being said, HR is one of the industries that can benefit from utilizing AI the most in some cases, especially in the world of talent acquisition as well, which we'll touch on today. So with that, it is a tool that we should start to get more and more comfortable with, as it really will help us really as that, kind of secret superpower and help us become more efficient. So today we'll touch on some things such as how you can use AI to help streamline your workflows, how you can use AI to improve your decision making, and really just overall how you can use it to empower your teams. Awesome. And then down to the details, a brief agenda for today. I know we have 30 minutes together, but we'll go over what is AI and how can we use it. We'll specifically narrow in on how we can use AI in the HR world, which is our world. And then we will also cover some Q&A. We had some questions that were submitted previously, and then we'll have the chat open. So really looking forward to going through some of your questions. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Meg.
Thanks, Celia. All right, so it might seem a little bit obvious, but I want to root ourselves first in the definition of AI as we know it, right? We're probably all hearing about AI, whether it's through our work, through our personal lives. Maybe you're using ChatGPT to, plan your trip wardrobes. You just never know, right? It's all kind of all encompassing these days. But what do we mean when we talk about AI? So the definition itself is technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning, comprehension, problem solving, decision making, creativity, and autonomy. So that's what we're going to root ourselves in today as the definition of AI. Now let's talk about AI and HR. So there's this intersection in the two pieces, right? You saw in the definition, there's a bunch of different terms that we're using: creativity, problem solving, learning. Those are all things that typically you would expect from an HR, from a people team. And yet, as we look at kind of how our industry has been getting comfortable in the AI space, rather, only about 15% of teams are moving from that evaluation discovery phase to implementation. This is coming from Lattice, which I think some of you on this call might be familiar with. If not, it's a performance management culture tool that's now been around for a while and really been one of the kind of foremost authorities on bringing AI into the tech stack. So definitely folks who would know what they're talking about here. But we're seeing this boom in AI adoption. We're not seeing it in the HR space. On the whole, people teams are just slower to bring this technology in. I know even personally, like Celia said, right, there's this apprehension, right, of how does AI work in HR? When is it appropriate to use? When is it not appropriate to use? How does it actually help the goals that we're setting for ourselves as people teams? So as Work Friendly prides itself on our HR tech expertise, one of those things naturally has to be AI, right? So what we're seeing right now, we're still seeing teams struggling with administrative HR tasks, right? So tedious, repetitive. We know that's not going away in the HR space, whether that's in recruiting, candidate numbers, whether that is in performance management, the data that's coming through in reviews, that's not going anywhere. We're also seeing just this influx, right, of software and platforms that you're already using, Google Suites, Microsoft, right? So many folks are now in this wow, I'm going to do that AI and HR. I'm going to do that the whole day. In the AI space, but it's really causing this sort of like decision paralysis, choice paralysis of where do I go, what makes sense for my company, my employee base, and really it still feels like there's this lag or lack of an HR strategy that connects with AI, that's really supporting what all of our teams are trying to do, which is support people planning, and that feels like, how do those two things connect? So quick wins, right? I know like some of you are here just to learn how this can help you. I'd also love to share how, what we're seeing with our clients in different teams, right? So like I said, we've got folks who are already doing this. If you look at meeting notes, really quick win. A lot of you probably have plugins available that all you have to do is opt into, right? Google with Gemini, Microsoft now has a version. There's also some standalone tools that we're going to talk about that embed in your calendar, can take meeting notes, can synthesize action items, can verify engagement rates, right? In town halls, how many people actually participated, whether that was an emoji or a comment. Really awesome ways. We know we're in wall-to-wall meetings now. That's just kind of this post-COVID reality. How do you streamline your time, your team's time, and also make sure that there's this like equalizer of, hey, I missed a meeting. Did I miss everything? No, like there's really awesome ways to get everybody on the same page. So really quick win there. Job postings and candidate screening. There's a lot of players in this kind of AI recruiting, AI ATS space that some of you might be familiar with. I know Greenhouse has been a great kind of front runner in this space of really trying to eliminate bias through data and through AI, but lots of screening solutions, copywriting tools, which Brooke is going to talk about, really trying to eliminate some of those inconsistencies that we might find when you're trying to hire a bunch of people at once, right? Is everyone having a comparable experience? Are you sharing the same information about your company, et cetera? And then another really easy, quick win, low lift sometimes is feedback surveys, sentiment analysis. A lot of our teams are finding, ENPS numbers are more important than ever, right? Engagement we know is low. How do we make sure that we can simplify these processes, be getting that rich data recurring, and then turning it into action, which is what I know we're all trying to do every day for our teams and for our leaders. So, I mentioned a couple things. This is not exhaustive by any means. There are so many tools now, but I'll dive into a couple and then Brooke will talk about some as well, just to get kind of your brain wrapped around like how I can explore this space, right? Stay in that discovery, but maybe what might work as an implementation for your team. So Notion, some of you might have used. I love Notion. It is wonderful for everything from note-taking, agenda setting, toolkits for new hires. Really, some companies are using it almost as like a employee wiki, and they're doing a ton around automation of templates, information. It's really easy to use. It's browser, it's app, and that's a really quick win that folks, there's a free version, there's an enterprise, so a really cool fan favorite from the Work Friendly crew. We actually have used it for some of our own onboarding. I onboarded through Notion, which was fantastic, and just a really cohesive experience for folks. I talked a little bit about the note app. So read.ai is a favorite of some of our clients. They like it for embedding in their meetings. It's capturing not only video content, but engagement, metrics, action items, kind of like I talked about. There's a couple of different note-taking apps out there. It all kind of depends on the system that you're using. And then if we look across kind of that, employee lifecycle, we've got Lattice, Culture Amp, two big players in performance management, culture, engagement, and so much more than I think of what we used to think from performance, right? Like, oh, here's an annual review process. Like really being able to bring out data, recurring surveys, exploring sentiment across new hires, managers, just really reinforcing the data in HR and how you can use that to make your teams even stronger. ChatGPT, OpenAI, those sorts of things, we all kind of hopefully know them by now. Also very easy to use on your phone or on a browser. And being able to really synthesize quickly. We had an example of a client at Work Friendly where we needed to very quickly get results of zip codes for commuting distance for, who should be in an office setting, right? And like hundreds of zip codes that would take any one person back to those kind of tedious recurring tasks could take hours, and ChatGPT makes it so much easier to take that data and run with it. And then on the recruiting side, Paradox and HireVue have been really awesome, kind of fan favorites that are doing really interesting technology around interviews to your phone, right? Everyone's so busy. We know that. How can you engage with candidates? How can you engage with hiring managers quicker, more efficiently, and more fairly? So those are kind of some of our favorites so far. There's still so many out there. We'd love to hear any that you love. So if you want to chat them to us, I'd love to hear them. And then Brooke, I think you were going to talk about some other tools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most unique things about the AI space is while tools are built maybe with one industry in mind, there is really no guardrails of when an industry can maybe jump in and utilize that same tool. So while I'm in the marketing space and I touch, multiple facets of that type of content creation or marketing exploration, right? My team does a lot of content creation at scale globally. So think of lip dubbing video content for multiple in-country usage, or quickly scaling photography and changing colored backgrounds as quickly as possible. One of the things that when talking with the Work Friendly team is, wow, you guys are copywriters. You guys write a lot of copy. And, whether that really you want that to be a part of your job description or not, unfortunately, it really is. And so how do you kind of enable that and make that more efficient use of your time? And one of the tools that I use quite frequently as a brand marketer is Jasper. It's a complete pure copywriting AI tool. And what's really unique about it, while it might not be a dedicated HR platform or HR tool, you can build a tone of voice. So think about your company, your employer, and how important it is to kind of keep this consistent tone of voice, this employee experience, and carrying that through every single kind of employee touch point or experience, whether it's external or internal, job postings or emails. Those interactions really matter. And one of my favorite things is, you could write a job posting, put in a few elements for that prompt, but then you could highlight that entire output and ask it to make it into an email without putting any additional output or input in, and get an instant result, right? So really talking about expediting your workflow process on a task that is probably not labeled in your own job description as an HR manager or an HR team. So again, I think it's about looking at the entire landscape of AI tools. And while there's so many that are offered within the HR space, there's a wide variety that could be utilized in really unique ways that might enable you even more. And that's really the beauty of AI and the paralyzing part. So of course, Meg said, the second thing that we're seeing is there's choice paralysis. There's so many softwares. So maybe this slide is helping, maybe it's hurting, but I think that's the great next thing that Meg will touch on is great, wonderful. How do we adopt this into a strategy? I will tell you from a marketing side, we have to align platforms to our key objectives. Otherwise, we can get lost in the same sea of technology, right? Like we really try to align it with our key objectives and what we're trying to accomplish as a team. So that way we're not stretching ourselves too thin. We're not jumping in and out of platforms too often, but instead we're aligning it with our strategy to make sure that we are focused and we're outputting our energy into the right things. So with that, I'll pass it back to Meg and how this really can align with your people initiatives and what that may look like.
Thanks, Brooke. Yeah, I feel like there's this tendency to like AI is a buzzword, right? And like throwing around all these like ways you can use AI to make your job easier. But I think really the where should I start is, what does your team need? For us, that's what our clients need internally, right? Like, what do we need to be better every day? And really communicating with your teams, with your leadership about that why behind the tools, especially in a space that's changing all the time. We know obviously there's like regulations happening, data privacy, et cetera. Celia is going to talk a bit about that, but being really intentional about what your objectives are and how AI can support that versus just like throwing anything at a wall. So one of the things we really like to do at Work Friendly is to think about the full employee lifecycle. You saw Celia had shared kind of our overview slide earlier in this presentation, but we found it really helpful to align relevant, exciting AI tools across our lifecycle that we see. So I talked about some of those productivity tools, right? Like Read, ChatGPT, Zapier, all of those kind of are all encompassing in the life cycle. But then as you look across, one of the things that we're really priding ourselves on is being able to say to clients like, okay, what do you really want to focus on right now? What's the highest impact? Maybe it's attraction, right? Okay, let's use some of those tools to reinforce why that's so important and focus your time and energy on it versus trying to like roll out this full suite, which is, I think, why we're seeing really that lower adoption, because there's just so much on the page. If you're thinking about retention, right, going back to engagement, maybe that's most important for you in this next year or next quarter, looking at things like Jasper that Brooke mentioned, Culture Amp that I love, and seeing how that will reinforce some of your goals. I think it's also really important to note that there is so much within most HRIS platforms these days and ATS platforms these days. So applicant tracking system and human resources information systems, I think is what we're calling it these days. For those of you not in the people space, there is so much within those that you're probably not even optimizing, right? Some of our clients at Work Friendly, we're coming on just to help them be more efficient and optimize solutions that they've already paid for that maybe they're not even aware of the capacity and like the potential that they can unlock. So most folks these days, Rippling is a great example, constantly rolling out new product offerings that supplement what you're already using, right? So compensation tools, layering in that really rich data that maybe you're clicking around in all these different spots to find information that Rippling might already have. So we always like to reinforce with folks, like, are you really optimizing and being efficient with the tools you have before you roll out a whole new suite? If you want to roll out a whole new suite, there's plenty on the board that aligns to all those different people objectives, but really starting with like those quick wins that I mentioned and the optimization of product of what are we already paying for? Let's get our bang for our buck and really understand those tools and use them to help our teams. So maximizing and optimizing, I think, is the key here. However, caveat to all of this, which is all the other considerations that come with AI. So I'm going to pass that to Celia.
Thanks, Meg. Awesome. Important considerations. Most of us are in the field of HR, so we are no strangers when it comes to compliance. So first things first, we always want to ensure compliance with data and protection regulations when utilizing AI. Next, transparency and communication. Brooke and Meg both touched on how we can align utilizing different AI tools with our objectives. So let's talk about that openly with our teams and discuss how we really can leverage AI best and what tools make sense where. Last but not least, human oversight. And we'll really hammer this home on the next slide, but AI only works as well as you work. So it requires you. You are the one who is inputting the data. You are using it to make yourself more efficient or utilizing it as a resource. And it will always require human oversight. So we are always ensuring that we're reviewing those outputs, making sure they make sense. And sometimes we are, putting them back in, seeing what comes out, and we'll do that a couple of times to make sure that the output is 100% accurate. And like I said, you're the expert. So AI is a resource. There are a number of tools that can help make us more efficient, but it truly requires the user's expertise. There are certain ways that we can utilize AI within HR. There are plenty of places within our roles that we cannot leverage AI, and that's okay. AI is in the best hands when it comes to HR because we are an industry that will utilize AI in good faith. We are compliance experts, and we want to utilize it in the best way possible. A comment that Brooke and Meg had shared as we were putting together this deck is garbage in, garbage out, which I really do think speaks to this slide the most. The output is only going to be as good as what you're putting into it. So all of that said, I hope that this has been extremely helpful. We are excited to, with the last 5 minutes that we have here, tackle some of the questions that we have gotten. Awesome. So with that, I'll go ahead and pull some of these up. And Brooke or Meg, feel free to chime in. The first question that we have is, how can HR teams ensure compliance with privacy laws while using AI for employee data analysis? This one probably makes sense to go to Meg.
Yeah, this one is so tricky. I joined a couple of webinars recently about this because I'm just trying to stay current, right? Things are changing, like I said, changing all the time, particularly if you have clients or you have employees overseas. GDPR laws in Europe are also being used in the AI space now. There's new regulations all the time, even in the US. And so I think just having someone on your team, back to like the human element of AI, you can put in ChatGPT, what are current AI laws? But like, how does that work for your team and your company? And being really deliberate about the ways that you're using employee data. I think, it should sound really obvious, but it's not always, which is, please don't use sensitive or like actual company data in things like ChatGPT. I think we've gotten so used to using it in our day-to-day, but it's all online, right? And so perhaps you're working on salary benchmarking, or you're working on benefits for your team, making sure that you're using not fake numbers, right? But using approximate numbers, not necessarily putting them next to people's names, et cetera, because that's all going out there on the internet and who knows where it's going to end up in the end. There's also some really interesting AI training and even certifications that are starting to come through in the US and in overseas. For folks that I would consider like power users, there's some ISO things. A bunch of, if you talk to your benefits broker, those are typically folks who can help connect you with those. And your tech teams, right? Because a lot of those folks are dealing with similar issues. But I think just staying current and recognizing that it's an industry that's literally changing every day. And so the knowledge that you had yesterday might no longer be relevant or might be outdated today. So just being careful and being intentional.
Love that, Meg. And I know here at Work Friendly, we're constantly sharing what we're seeing when it comes to compliance updates and new information that is coming out. So very well said. The next question that we got is, what trends do you foresee shaping the relationship between HR and AI in the next, let's call it 5 years?
I'm going to take a wild stab here, only because I work really closely with our own HR department, and I actually came from corporate branding from a previous role. So I'm I shouldn't say very familiar. I'm slightly familiar with how critical employer branding is. I really see the relationship between HR and AI, hopefully taking the heavier lift off of building employer branding to be not so secondary, because I know that there is so much crucial compliance activity and other mandatories that sit squarely on HR shoulders that sometimes employer branding becomes almost secondary out of default. And hopefully, with these tools, that can become more accessible and teams can almost enable that faster. And without marketing teams, sometimes HR teams don't have access to marketing teams, or they have an equivalent of a marketing team of one. So that allows them just to kind of work more autonomously and have that like insight and enablement to be able to kind of scale their own employer branding without having to be marketers themselves to a certain extent. So that's my hope, or that's what I foresee. Hopefully, companies, especially small to medium sized companies, being able to use it from a recruitment aspect.
Yes, absolutely. And we've already seen that quite a bit, even just internally at Work Friendly, and how we've been able to leverage AI and imagery. Awesome. Well, we're at 12. So we would love to be able to answer all of the questions that we got. So maybe perhaps if you didn't have a chance to have your question answered today, feel free to reach out to Meg, Brooke, or myself, and we'd be happy to hop on with you. I do want to just thank everyone so much for attending now our second Work Friendly webinar. We're very excited to have this series going and are looking forward to the next one. And above all, I'm so grateful for both Meg and for Brooke for joining us today. We appreciate your expertise. As I had mentioned, I've already learned so much, and I'm continuing to learn and also be an AI adopter myself, getting more comfortable with it. So I found this to be extremely helpful, and I hope all of you did as well. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. And have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thanks.